My name is Ebony MacArthur, and my dissertation title is Yet She Persevered: The Underrepresentation of Women in Senior and Executive Positions in the Finance Industry. My primary mentor is Dr. James Gillette. Traditionally, women tend to be substantially underrepresented in senior and executive positions. As a result, the finance industry is losing highly qualified women candidates for recruitment into senior level positions due to the asymmetry in advancement practices. Census reports indicate in 2002, women held approximately 15.7% of the senior leadership positions in Fortune 500 companies, but that number essentially remained the same through 2008. And even though literature has been reviewed that reveals the number of women leaders in financial services is projected to increase to 28% by 2023, this number is still well below equality. The Peacock framework was utilized to develop the research question. What are the barriers that create a disadvantage for women to achieve senior and executive positions in the finance industry? Population, women in the finance industry. Intervention, strategies to facilitate the goal of allowing women to achieve leadership roles. Comparison, compared to the current workplace environment. Outcomes is positive trends of women achieving leadership positions. Context is the finance industry. The three major constructs that will be reviewed in the literature landscape are as follows: women in finance, gender and leadership, the benefits of having women leaders, as well as barriers to career advancement. My analysis was developed based on two theoretical frameworks that both focused on barriers associated with women being able to receive advancement opportunities. The first theory is social role theory, developed by scholar practitioner Eagly in 1987. Social role theory investigates societal expectations and beliefs regarding women, specifically focusing on gender bias. The second theoretical framework is role congruity theory of prejudice towards women, developed by Eagly and Carroll 2002. This theory expands on Eagly's initial framework to describe how gender roles and leader roles come together to create two specific prejudices. These theories provided the foundation for my study. My conceptual model reflects the pool of women seeking senior and executive positions in the finance industry. To the left are barriers identified in the literature as preventing career advancement: gender stereotypes, societal perceptions, organizational culture, and sociocultural bias. To the right are factors identified in literature that support career advancement, such as networking, mentoring, and organizational support. Seemingly, this model says, here is the issue: women seeking senior and executive positions in the finance industry. If you apply the factors that support career advancement for women, you'll get the outcome of a positive trend of women in senior and executive positions. My search approach included forward and backward snowball searches, as well as a key phrase search, which was used in 3 academic databases. My inclusion criteria was scholarly academic journals that were in full text and peer reviewed, as well as in English. My exclusion criteria was studies that were not relevant to the research question, as well as studies with no literature review. The weight of evidence appraisal framework is used to assess the data and to clarify the judgments when evaluating the relevance and quality of the evidence that was provided. Weight of evidence A evaluated the studies to assure they met basic quality standards before any further evaluation. Weight of evidence B is a review of the specific judgment about the appropriateness of the evidence for answering the research question. Weight of evidence C is a review of the specific judgment about the relevance of the focus of the evidence for the review question. And weight of evidence D uses these 3 sets of judgments combined to form an overall assessment of each study. A snapshot of my weight of evidence appraisal chart has been provided. The PRISMA framework was utilized to identify potentially relevant publications, screening them for relevance, evaluating articles for eligibility, as well as reporting the final number of studies included in the synthesis. A total of 33 studies were used for the systematic review. Coding was the primary qualitative approach used to classify the key concepts within the data. The initial coding cycle consisted of line-by-line extraction using Atlas TI-23, coding by assigning descriptive codes and phrases. The procedure included a thorough examination of the 33 studies, data, discussion, and conclusion, resulting in 875 initial codes. Those codes were then exported into Microsoft Excel for level 2 manual coding. During the second coding cycle, a deeper look at the extracted codes was conducted to group similar codes. During level 2 coding, 186 codes were extracted and major categories was designated from those codes. A total of 36 categories were identified and displayed trends that indicated the categories could be then grouped into 4 findings during the third level of coding. The findings of this study incorporate research outcomes that support gender-related barriers that influence the appointment of women to senior and executive positions in the finance industry. 33 scholarly articles was used for answering the research question: what are the barriers that create a disadvantage for women to obtain senior and executive leadership positions in the finance industry? The first finding is lack of mentorship creates a barrier for career advancement for women in finance. Literature supports that mentoring is a critical component in career advancement, especially for women aspiring to senior leadership roles, but it is frequently an underutilized tool. Also, having a mentor provides a productive, skilled, and expert person who can connect with moderately inexperienced women to improve their development and give vision. The second finding is the most significant barrier to entry to senior and executive positions is gender stereotypes. Literature supports that traditional roles and societal perceptions of women and men continue to influence on how each gender relates to and approaches decisions. The third finding is perceived family responsibilities or work-life balance. Literature supports that there is a widespread belief that women in finance do not have the same work-life balance as their male counterparts. It is important for women to begin to set boundaries between work and their personal life to be considered an equal contender for these positions. The final finding is outdated organizational policies and procedure practices which aid in upholding the glass ceiling. Literature supports and identifies that women's lack of representation at the top ranks in investment banks is not simply an individual level problem, but is also the result of outdated organizational policies. Organizational governance policies and guidelines can dismantle discriminatory practices and barriers, which entail can advance knowledge of the most effective interventions for overcoming these obstacles. These are my references provided for this presentation. Thank you for listening. I am open to any questions.